There are many anime series out there that feature Hell as a key player in their stories. In Go Nagai's Devilman, Hell is basically supposed to be Earth because Demonkind is shown as its first actual inhabitants. In Dorohedoro, you can incinerate your poop with literal hellfire in the world of sorcerers. In Hellsing Ultimate, fighting Alucard is akin to being in Hell, especially when he releases all his control restrictions. But in the world of Berserk, Hell is unlike anything that has ever been seen before in manga history. For starters, you can argue that it's not even a place, because Berserk features that infernal landscape in its most philosophical sense, given a literal body of flesh. The term Abyss has often been associated with the Devil's Playground for its seemingly endless scope, but Kentaro Miura took it literally and twisted it in such grotesque fashions that we'd rather be in Dante's Divine Comedy than Miura's Berserk. But what exactly is this abyss, and how do people end up in it in the first place? We'll answer all of that and more in this video. This is The Abyss Explained. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means an awful lot. Thank you. Let's begin. It debuts in the very first arc of the manga, The Abyss's Introduction to Berserk. Those of you who have seen the Berserk anime might be confused by the title of this section, and that's because neither anime is a faithful adaptation of its source material. The 2016 anime takes some gross liberties with its storyline compression and its animation, and while the 1997 anime is more faithful to the tone and content of Kentaro Miura's Berserk, it too is missing key things from the manga, most notably Guts' first encounter with the God Hand. Though it takes place 2 years into his journey as the Black Swordsman in-universe, for the outside world, the Abyss was first introduced in the 8th prelude chapter to Berserk, titled The Guardian Angels of Desire, Part 6. This part of the manga is often left out, presumably due to its graphic and disturbing content, but we'd like to think it's also because it introduces the God Hand a bit too early. What we mean by that is, if you go back and read the Black Swordsman arc, many of Berserk's key concepts and conditions are explained pretty early on, but if you're an anime-only fan, you wouldn't know that because at best, all you've gotten from this arc is the Snake Baron. You guys haven't seen Guts' bloody, castle-destroying battle with the Slug Count in all its glory, but perhaps it is with good reason. But we're digressing here. The reason we bring this all up is to explain to you that in Berserk, Hell is more of a metaphorical existence than a literal one. See, there are at least 2 distinct worlds that overlap each other in Kentaro Miura's creation. The physical world, where all physical things live and interact with each other, and the astral world, where all spiritual beings live and interact with each other. Just like how the Earth has multiple layers of sediment, deposits, rock formations, and more leading deeper and deeper until you reach our planet's core, the astral world too has many distinct layers. The shallowest layers of the astral world are called interstices. In these layers, astral creatures like elves, trolls, centaurs, incubi, and the malign spirits of the dead, who double as Guts' nightly companions, reside. These creatures are beings that humans can clearly visualize and have deep imaginative links to. Deeper within the astral world lie beings whose existence defy human imagination. This would include creatures like the God Hand, who each seem to represent one particularly powerful facet of human desire. And within the deepest layers of the astral world, a place that defies the logic of both human and arcane reason, resides the Abyss, aka Hell. We see it for the first time thanks to the God Hand, because, obviously. The God Hand, being entities embodying the idea of evil within Berserk, are both heralds and controllers of the Abyss. They obey its will, while simultaneously using its power to teach a lesson to those amongst their ranks who go off message. Now that we've introduced you to the Abyss, let's get into a deeper explanation of what it actually is. A haunting swirl of spirits that's worse than your worst nightmare. The Abyss. How it looks and functions. When the God Hand's usual strategy of gaslighting their targets into accepting their point of view fails to work a second time on the Slug Count, they switch to open intimidation, and show him what would happen to him if he refused their offer. See, the Slug Count was an apostle, and so far he is the only person of his kind to be offered reincarnation twice. The birth of an apostle itself is intricately linked to the Abyss abyss, because, to put it plainly, that is where they draw their existence from. Before we encountered the platitudinous Skull Knight and his endless twisting metaphors, or the many wise people of Berserk whose wisdom was more confusing than enlightening, Kentaro Miura had already explained how apostles were created, and the role the abyss played in it. Once again, because of how overlooked the Black Swordsman arc is in mainstream media, it gets missed amongst all the other details, but we'll refresh your mind. An apostle is a human being who has given over their flesh and soul in service to the God Hand in exchange for an undying existence as a literal demon. They gain their forms by using a behelit, which is essentially a key that links the deepest layers of the astral world to the physical world. When a behelit is used to open an interstice, the person who summons that interstice is a lot closer to hell than they realize, because behelits emerge from the abyss itself. And as we've clarified already, in Berserk, that world is synonymous with hell. After an apostle chooses to sacrifice their humanity in exchange for power, a fissure opens in their hearts, which takes their soul in exchange for the power of evil. This soul is then bound to the abyss, and forms a parasitic relationship with the apostle. So long as an apostle lives, their souls will stay in their bodies of flesh, being powered by the eternal abyss. Emperor Ganishka used this principle to construct his man-made behelit, which helped him create his Daka forces and gain his twice reincarnated form as Shiva. At the moment of their death, however, their souls would be dragged into the abyss, leaving only the shell of their former human body behind as a memento. Because an apostle chooses to forego their humanity, there is no place for them in this world, and so their ultimate fate is to end up in hell. This is exactly what the God Hand threatened the Slug Count with when he summoned them a second time in his own castle, and also why he nearly gave in as well. But that's a lot about how it works. What does the abyss actually look like? Well, it looks like every dead person from your nightmares and then some. The abyss, or Berserk's hell, is basically a maelstrom of interlinked souls locked in eternal torment, swirling within the abyss as a single malevolent existence. When an apostle dies, this mass of souls reaches out for their promised brethren like a terrifying vortex, which then drags down the apostle's souls with it by literally chaining it down to hell. We canonically saw this for the first time when Wild died. After breathing his last breath, the ape-like apostle's chest was torn asunder, from which the vortex of souls erupted and engulfed their promised offering. The Band of the Falcon, including Guts, saw this at the time, but couldn't make anything of it. And when Guts saw it later as the Black Swordsman, he was too far gone to realize what he was seeing here was essentially the same thing. But if you think that apostles are the only ones who end up going to hell in Berserk, then you're dead wrong, because morality and causality still apply. Let's look at the former. When the Slug Count decided to finally be a man and give in to his fate instead of sacrificing his daughter for a second chance at life, we see his soul being dragged into hell. The abyss reaches out for him from the bowels of the interstice summoned by his behelit, and drags him into itself without hesitation. But one of the souls swirling within it bore the face of Vargas, and this tells you that you don't need to be an actual demon of some kind to end up in hell. Your actions in life count as well. Vargas had been the Count's physician for several years, and assisted him in some of his grossest abuses against human rights during his time as a human. He continued to do so after the Count became an apostle, and only thought of escape when he realized his own life was in danger. With his dying breath, Vargas cursed the Count by declaring the Black Swordsman was coming for him, and his final request was for Guts to hold up the man's head for him so his soul could rest in peace. It's clear that Vargas's afterlife request didn't go through because he's literally in hell, but morality could have a factor to play here. Vargas was a self-preservationist through and through, and that kind of mentality tends to make you do morally disgusting things in the name of survival. It's possible that hell is populated by thousands of souls like his, who committed the most egregious crime of staying silent when they could have helped someone else. And yet, at the same time, Demonkind has done its fair share to pump it to its current size. Because the God Hand explains that the fate of anyone who gets tangled with Demonkind is to end up in the abyss, and that includes the souls of intended sacrifices. As of this moment, Guts is only safe from hell so long as he is alive. Same thing for Casca too, though you can argue she's in hell already, considering she's being held captive in Falconia. The original Band of the Falcon is currently in hell, because Griffith sacrificed them to become Femto. When you think of it that way, the Abyss becomes a far more chilling entity, and far more fitting for the title of hell, even in a dark fantasy setting. Causality has been shown to be a mostly negative thing for the people of Berserk. It appears to be the primary driving force behind the actions of the God Hand, which makes it one of Hell's primary sources of power in turn. But if Hell is a metaphysical vortex of emotion and damnation in Berserk, then what exactly is its role in the story? Well, besides being a metaphorical representation of mankind's endless potential for evil, of course, the Abyss is also home to the literal idea of evil, and once you read chapter 83 and keep that context in your mind whilst tracing Griffith's actions post-femtoization, you can see the outlines of a rather sinister plan emerging. See, while apostles meet the God Hand and use regular Behelits to allow the Abyss to possess their hearts, those earmarked to become the God Hand themselves descend into the Abyss once they affirm their resolve. There, they meet the idea of evil, get an ego-shattering world revelation, and receive their infernal demonic powers before returning as a Cenobite-like freak of nature. It establishes a far more permanent link between the Abyss and the God Hand, and so when Griffith is incarnated into the physical world, what does he start doing? Feeding the Abyss more souls to strengthen its powers. People tend to think that Griffith being portrayed as a Christ-like figure during the Millennium Falcon arc is Miura whitewashing his entire character, but they couldn't be further off the mark. If anything, he's even more evil now, because you have to really read between the lines to understand his actual motivations these days. And so, his first encounter with Mule Wolfflame becomes a horrifying premonition when you realize what his words actually mean. Mule meets Griffith for the first time as the latter is performing a service. As the Falcon of Light, he has the power to gather and commune with the souls of soldiers who had just died on the battlefield. With this power, he allowed those parting souls one final moment of closure with their families before they went into the afterlife. Regular people are usually so charmed by Griffith post-incarnation that they just accept this as a miracle, but Mule was skeptical of the light show. He asks Griffith where exactly the souls of the departed go, and Griffith tells him a place where they all become one. Way back in the Black Swordsman arc, Puck described the Abyss as an endless swirl of consciousness where all the evil of the world seemed to have gathered. He falls short of actually saying that they have all become one, but the implication is clear enough for us. Putting two and two together, we can conclude that Griffith is sending the souls of those who die in his service straight to hell. But why? Sure, it could be for more power, but that's not all of it. In chapter 362 of Berserk, we got a glimpse into the final moments of the human life of the Skull Knight, and one of its most intriguing and terrifying panels depicted the Abyss swirling in the background of an interstice, which has never happened before. That interstice was allegedly opened in the capital city of King Geiseric's empire 1,000 years ago, which is now the site of Griffith's capital city of Falconia. Berserk is a tale that likes to show patterns repeating themselves even centuries apart. So is it possible that Griffith is just prepping Falconia for a massive plunge into the Abyss? Or is he going to keep sending their souls to hell on a piecemeal basis as he has been doing so far? Either way, the ultimate role of the Abyss will be the same as the ultimate goal of the Falcon of Light, so as long as that remains unclear, we can't be too sure about the purpose of Hell in Berserk's endgame. But we do know this: we will most likely see the Abyss emerge into the physical world like it did in chapter 362 once again in the story, and when it does, watching Guts struggle to keep himself from its grasp is the moment that will truly define his legacy as a struggler in the world of Berserk. Guts' story is all about defying fate and being a leaping fish in the current of causality. What better way to break the surface than snatch his soul away from literal hell? Marvelous verdict. But that's it for this video. Berserk's unique version of hell is a lot more scary than any other hell we've seen in anime or manga because it derives from the mind. The Abyss is nothing more than the dark side of humanity's collective subconscious, and so that means that humans literally created their own hell. But that is often what life is like in Kentaro Miura's creation, which is why we love the fact that our protagonist is a fate-defying, cannon-firing maniac in black. Let us know what you thought about the Abyss in the comments down below, and we'll see you guys in the next one.